Panel 2B of our conference about the rise and fall of hub ports along the maritime Silk Route. We are losing some people, I think, but we still have a quorum here. It's good. Thank you for coming back. And so in this part of the session, we also have three speakers. Professor Federico De Romanis to talk about Indian hub ports, South Indian hub ports. Our Thai colleague, Professor Tirujatna Pumpajara, to tell us about Ayutthaya. And finally, my colleague from the NUS, Dr. Bonero, to tell us about teaching maritime history. So let's start now, without much ado, with Professor Federico De Romanis. Please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure and an honor for me to be here. I want to thank the Nanyang University and in particular Professor Nanetti for the kind invitation. So, halfway between Arabia and Southeast Asia, the South India Emporia played a crucial role in the maritime relations between the Mediterranean Sea and Southeast Asia. The relevance of this commercial intercourse has been emphasized already for the Abbasid and Mamluk times and also for the pre-Islamic Saudi Arabia. But it's equally significant for the Roman Empire. Before addressing our topic, I would like to emphasize how trade in the Indian Ocean, and with South Indian in particular, changed the perception of the world regarding the Greco-Roman culture. Since Herodotus, the classical ecumene was conceived as surrounding the internal sea. Everybody knows Plato's pond, around which Mediterranean civilizations live. And here you can see the Tabula Poitingeriana, a medieval map drawn after an ancient model, with the internal sea. This slim line is the Mediterranean. If we look at Ptolemy's world map, which assembled information passed on from the mercantile community of Alexandria, which included both Arabian and Indian merchants, we see a completely different picture, with not one, but two seas. Ptolemy's map is close to the idea of the Arab geographers that there are two seas in the world, the Bahr al-Rum and the Bahr al-Sin, the Sea of the Romans and the Sea of the Chinese. Although separated by a land barrier and more decisively by arid coast with sea bottoms rich in coral reefs and shoals, and finally by winds that blow constantly from the north, both in the northern part of the Red Sea and in the Arabian Gulf. These two seas, the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean, had significant interactions from the ancient to the early modern periods. A major incentive for the commercial intercourse with South India from both east and west was South Indian black pepper. I cannot explain how grains of black pepper ended up in the nostrils of Ramesses III mummy, but it's much easier to state when the Greek language borrowed via the Persian the Indian term pipali. It was in the 3rd century BCE, and this script of the Hippocratic corpus, the Mulierum Affectibus, should be considered its earliest occurrence in Greek. It has to be noticed, however, that the word pipali applied to long pepper, which is a North Indian spice. The term never applied to black pepper, which was a typical South Indian product. In Tamil, for instance, no confusion is possible between the terms tippali, which is long pepper, and kari or milaku or minasu for black pepper. Paradoxical as it may seem, in the Greek vocabulary, black pepper became the real pepper, the pepper tout court, while the Indian pipali was called peppery macron, the long pepper. Evidence for the large-scale export of black pepper, both westward to the Roman Empire and eastward to the Chinese Empire, clearly emerges only right before the beginning of the Christian era. Literary sources Literary sources, this is a couple of verses of the Latin poet Horace, point to a vicus, a street in Rome where frankincense and pepper are sold. And pepper grain have been found in the Roman camp at Oberaden in Germany, east of the Rhine. It was a Roman camp occupied only between 11th and 8 BCE. Archaeological, epigraphical, and papyrological evidence proves consumption of pepper in the most unlikely places of the Roman Empire. The German border, here Hanau and Straubing, Vindolanda in Britain, next to the Adrian Wall, Madauros in Africa, North Africa, but this is hardly surprising in the eastern desert of Egypt. The impressive scale of the pepper export into the Roman Empire is reflected by the Sanskrit compound Yavana Priya, the love of the Yavana, of the Westerner, the Greek for the Westerner. No doubt characterizing the black pepper, recorded in the Amarakosha, which is a kind of dictionary, Sanskrit dictionary, ancient Sanskrit dictionary. And at approximately the same time that it's at approximately the same time that it was massively exported. At approximately the same time that it is massively exported westward, pepper was also exported to China. In the annals of the Ledoran dynasty, pepper appears among the articles brought from India. It has been argued that the very name Hu Chiao, the spice of the Hu, means the spice of the Hu, namely the Central Asiatic nomads. And it shows that it first entered China overland through the Central Asia, because this is the Sichuan pepper. So the pepper was called the Sichuan pepper of the Central Asia nomads. If this is true, this unexpected route to China of Indian pepper may be explained with the trade network that connected South Indian emporia with the rest of India. The Periplus Maris Erythraei explicitly states that the Muziris and Nelkinda, the port of South India, the pepper emporia of South India, they prosperity to shipping from both Egypt and Vergata, which is here, Baruch. Therefore, it may be suggested that South Indian pepper was exported to Vergata, exchanged there for Chinese silk, which we know was available at Vergata because a branch of the Silk Road reached both here in the Deccan and the Indus Valley, another branch. So the commercial route that brought pepper to the Mediterranean is very well known. Merchants from Alexandria used to avoid navigation in the northern part of the Red Sea, so they sailed the Nile upstream up to Coptos. Here, they crossed the eastern desert to the Red Sea port of Berenice, which is down. The outward sea voyage started around July 20th and lasted more than 2 months. The return journey began between December and January 13th, so that they could land in Egypt in March and be in Alexandria by April, May. This is an inscription. There are many inscriptions, but one of them, it's on the caravan road, along the caravan road between Berenice and Coptos, between the Red Sea and the Nile. And this inscription is dated to 38 years of Caesar, so 2 BC. And this guy, Gaius Numidius Eros, was here, hic fuit, ex India radiens, coming back from India. So the trade between Alexandria and India was therefore an annual business. This is quite different from for instance, the Portuguese trade with India, which takes more than 1 year, so it requires the double of the ships. Information about this trade is provided by Pliny and therefore is long known. However, an exceptional document published 30 years ago, but only recently fully understood, the so-called Muziris papyrus, provides on the recto side accurate information about the financial organization that supported that trade, while in the verso side contains a manifest of an ancient Indiaman shipping vessel. The size of this ship is impressive. The cargo amounted to almost 640 tons, 86% of which was pepper. In the last decade, archaeological investigation along the Malabar Coast in southwestern India have at last identified the probable site of the ancient Muziris at Pattanam, some 20 kilometers north of Cochin. Roman amphorae and West Asian pottery have been found there. So, in the 1st and 2nd century CE, because the Muziris papyrus, it is called Muziris papyrus not because it has been found there, but because on the recto side, there's a loan contract for a commercial enterprise to Muziris. So, between the 1st and the 2nd century CE, the major trade centers for South Indian pepper was Muziris and Nelkinda. We don't know exactly where it lay. It is less than 80 kilometers south of Muziris. So Muziris, it should be somewhere here, around the Vembanat Lake. All the pepper imported by the Romans in the 1st and 2nd century was exported from this small stretch, less than 50 miles, of the Kerala coast. The Periplus Maris Erythraei and Pliny state that pepper, respectively, grows in and comes from a region called Cottonaricae Cottonara, which is the Greek and Latin rendering of Kuttunadu, and it's the name of this plain south of the Vembanat Lake. On the other hand, in the 6th century CE, it's a big jump, but there's nothing in between. Cosma Indicopleus, let's say that in the region, in the hinterland of Muziris and Nelkinda, are concentrated most of the hoards of Roman coins found in India. The most by number and by the consistency of the hoards. In the 6th century, here. Oh, yes. In the 6th century CE, Cosmas Indicopleus locates pepper export in the region called Malay, which is the first occurrence of the toponym Malabar, Malay, and its 5 emporia. Sorry. It's the 5 marts of Malay which export pepper: Parthi, Mangarut, Salopatna, Nalopatna, Pudapatna. Mangarut is, of course, Mangalore, and Pudapatna is Budfattam. Both the other 3 emporia, I don't know how to identify, but they must be nearby in the same area. They are quite far away from Muziris and Nelkinda. More, they are quite far away from the region which both the Periplus Maris Erythraei and Pliny say was the sole region, the only region where pepper grows abundantly. I don't know how to explain this shift. We have no other evidence to justify this. Apparently, a big change happened, but the reason for it to happen, we have no clue. Since 2 of the 5 pepper emporia are Mangalore and Budfattam, and the other 3 must be nearby, it's clear that the geographic notion of Malay is restricted to a small area some 200 miles away from Muziris. Therefore, it follows that between the 2nd and the 6th centuries CE, the organization of the pepper trade changed. Mangalore, and maybe Budfatam, are mentioned by the Periplus, but just as local minor emporia. The reason and the consequences of this change need to be better investigated and explained. Hopefully, the question of whether the volume of trade remained unchanged is not doomed to complete speculation. At any rate, it may be noted that while in the 1st and century CE relations with the Mediterranean predominantly ran through the Red Sea, in the 5th and 6th century they were channeled through the Gulf. Persian supremacy in the trade with South India is reflected by the association of the Christian communities of India with the Church of Persia. Bishops and presbyters of India were appointed from Persia. Cosmas Indicopleustes emphasized the role of Taprobane, namely Sri Lanka, in the trade between India and China. Yes, maybe later. India and China. But Cosma fails to mention Kollam, which emerges or becomes visible in the 9th century CE as a layover point in the trade between Persia and China. The timing of the sea route from Persia to China may be inferred from the writings of Ludovico da Vartema, who says that from September to April they sailed from Persia to India, and from May to September, from South India eastward. This is da Vartema, il tempo della navigazione sua si è questo, dalla Persia fino al Capo Curem si può navigare per mesi 8 dell'anno, cioè settembre fino per tutto aprile. Then, alla fine di aprile si partono della costa di Calicut e vanno in un'altra navigazione. This is so 8 months are usable from Persia to South India, and 4 months from South India to further east. Kollam multiculturalism in the 9th century is reflected in the Kollam copper plates, where a donation act collects text in ancient Malayalam, if you prefer late Tamil, and Arabic in Kufic script, then Middle Persian and Judeo-Persian. Very often, in the medieval representation of either Arab geographers or Western travelogues, the pepper country, Balad al-Filfil, as a bipolar structure with a group of emporia in the north. Between Faganur and Fandarina. This is a clear representation of it is in Al-Dimashqi. But the same, and Kollam in the south. So that was the pepper country, the pepper area in the 1st century and 2nd century CE, which is totally out of the radar in the Arab geography. Unless I'm mistaken, I've just found one occurrence, one mention in an Arab geographer of Cochin. the same, this structure, the same structure is assumed, it may be inferred, for instance, by Marco Polo, and is reflected in the Geniza papyri. What is missing in this representation is the area that which included the ancient pepper emporia, Muziris and Nelkinda. We'll return to this point. In Al-Dimashqi, the predominant port is in the northern region of pepper country is Mangalore. Calicut is not even mentioned. This is the Marco Polo. It's the same. We have Mangaro Teppudapatanam, Eli, and then Kollam, Kollam. This is in Ibn Battuta, instead of Manjarur, we have Calicut. The Calicut trade with Aden or Jeddah is retrospectively described by Duarte Barbosa. In the days of their prosperity in trade and navigation, they built in the city keeled ships of 1,000 and 1,200 bakars burden. So there were 10 to 15 of these ships sailed to the Red Sea. So this is some 1,500, 2,000 tons of spice. This is the volume of trade to the west of Calicut. Well, transferred from Malabar to Aden, in March, April, pepper was forward either to the Sudanese coast in May, and that's why Ibn Jubair finds the caravans coming and going in the eastern desert in June, or later on shipped up to Toro, up to Suez in October, November, and that's why Alessandro Magno in the 16th century was waiting for the caravan from Toro in late October. I've not been able to find, as I said, I've not been able to find any reference to Cochin in the Arab geographers, apart from one mention in Ibn Majid, but just a passing mention. Only Mawan mentions Cochin and emphasizes its pepper production. Yet even Mahuan fails to recognize that most of the pepper traded in Calicut actually came from the Cochin area. By contrast, the region of Cochin was immediately recognized by the Portuguese as the main, if not the sole, site for the production of black pepper. They, as early as this is the letter of the King of Portugal to the kings of Spain, Ferdinando Isabella. It has been translated in Italian, printed in the 1505, and it refers to the voyage of Cabral. who immediately realized that it was much easier to load the ships in Cochin than in Calicut. The 24th of December of the 1500, they went to Cochin, and they were warmly received by the king of Cochin. And in only 16 days, they loaded their ship. In 1504, this is a letter of Alvaro Vaz to the king, Don Manuel, and this says that, telling the king that Cochin is the important port for pepper. It's very easy to get 30,000 quintais de pimenta, the quintals of pepper each year, 20 in Cochin and 10 in Kollam. In the next years, they realized that they can get even more than that. So in 1513, there's a letter of Antonio Real to Afonso de Albuquerque. He says there's no point in taking Calicut. There's for just a couple of thousands of quintais of ginger. You know very well that there's no pepper in Calicut, and it comes all from Cochin and Kayankulam, south of Cochin. So there's no point for us to stick to Calicut. This is, we have, and this is the best document, we have the best description of the pepper trade in the region, because the classical sources, they say that pepper comes from the Cutunado, the plain. Actually, this shouldn't be the case, because these are paddy fields. It arrives through the river. Yes, I'm also finished. Almost finished. The only one thing, this is in the 1560s, the Portuguese tried to establish a pepper monopoly, but they failed. They failed because the Indian traders succeeded in squeezing pepper in all the other ports of the west coast of India. They were able to export 2,000 tons of spices. But while the 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 tons of the Portuguese were obtained from only one port, Cochin, and were transferred with huge ships. These 40,000 quintais were squeezed from all the ports of the west coast of India and carry but hundreds of very small boats. Thank you.